Humanity has just witnessed the biggest and most shameful fraud check in the history of combat sports. Andrew Tate, a man who swore he was a top-level legendary kickboxer, stepped into a fight against a clumsy YouTuber and was shamelessly beaten and humiliated.
It's just like when you sell an image that you are the alpha male and then you lose to somebody else that looked up to you. It's just like, damn. Here we have Andrew Tate taking on a TikToker, and what do you know? He lost the fight against a TikToker. Now, seeing the fight, it was interesting. In my opinion, seeing Andrew Tate lose was kind of like, it was very, very disappointing for me. You know what I'm saying? But let's go and get straight into the video, see what's going on.
Humanity has just witnessed the biggest and most shameful fraud check in the history of combat sports. Andrew Tate, a man who swore he was a top-level legendary kickboxer, stepped into a fight against a clumsy YouTuber and was shamelessly beaten and humiliated. Yes, this man completely outclassed Andrew Tate with no chance whatsoever. I already made a video on this channel explaining that Andrew's entire career, and the way he talks about it, is nothing but a complete lie. A lie he fed to naive fans. And the fight against Chase Demore showed how things really are. Even before the fight, during the stare-down, Tate flinched from the slightest movement by Chase as if he had been electrocuted. Meanwhile, Andrew's fan base claimed that this was actually a good thing and that he was demonstrating unreal reflexes. In reality, it became obvious at that very moment that Andrew realized he had lied himself into a corner, causing his nervous system to be completely overloaded. That nervousness and anxiety carried over into the fight. Tate started the bout by throwing jabs to the body while not moving his head at all. Because of that, even such an awkward boxer as Chase was easily able to counter Tate's punches. Andrew is obviously not a world champion like he claimed. At best, he's an aging amateur who occasionally hits pads. And like an aging amateur, he continued to throw jabs to the body because he had absolutely no idea how to land a punch to the head of a boxer who was backing up with extended arms. A basic distance closing combination, a double jab followed by an overhand, was completely beyond the understanding of the legendary champion, Tate. So he kept pounding Chase's body, while Chase not only started catching Tate with punches, but quickly realized that he didn't even need to punch back much at all. Essentially, Tate posed no threat to Chase from the very first round, which is why Chase decided to simply hang on him in the clinch to completely exhaust him. Of course, Tate, being a multiple-time world champion, understood what was going on, right? No. Apparently, Andrew liked Chase's armpits so much that he started diving into Demore's clinch himself, making Chase's job even easier. At some point, it almost looked like Andrew had some kind of fetish for helping his opponent dominate him in the clinch. The way Tate gave up every position in the clinch and willingly allowed himself to be drained is a mistake not even an amateur would make. It's the mistake of someone who has never clenched his fists in his life. Very quickly, Andrew got...
So me just watching this fight right here, honestly, it was very disappointing for me because I'm just seeing Andrew Tate and I'm seeing Chase Demore. Both of them is in good shape. Honestly, I think with Tate and just Chase Demore, it just seemed like it was just a very, very like rush fight because the way that they are boxing, it seemed like you could pick somebody off the street and then, you know, get them teaching within 3 months or something like that, and they'll be fighting like a boxer. These people are fighting like they coming from like UFC or something like that, or coming from wrestling, and you put gloves on them and then you tell them to get in the ring and they fight. And it's really what it looks like. Honestly, he should have stuck to kickboxing. I don't like when other fighters fight each other, like a UFC come fight a boxer, or a kickboxer come fight UFC, or you know, all that type of stuff, because you just see a whole bunch of different type of, you know what I'm saying, fighting styles, and then it look like amateurs fighting each other, or either the person who going into this person field, like a boxer going into a UFC, you see him getting his ass whooped, and just like, damn, like this shit ain't really that enjoyable.
tired. However, in a strange way, that fatigue actually helped him. Realizing that the real world is different from his imaginary fantasies, he finally engaged in the fight. He began attempting to punch Chase in the head instead of mindlessly pounding the body with a lazy jab. Almost all of the headshots missed, but at least they cooled down Chase's arrogance a bit. But as soon as the confidence from landing a few punches faded, Tate became even more exhausted and once again started searching for Chase's armpit to hide under it. At first, D'Amore caught Tate at that moment with straight punches. Over time, he began catching him with uppercuts and seriously rocking him. And when Tate froze from being stunned, D'Amore followed up with hooks. A couple of times, Andrew saved himself from a knockout in the clinch, pretending he was trying to wrestle. But there were also situations where the referee clearly chose not to count a knockdown. Apparently, Andrew Tate isn't someone the referee particularly likes, and he decided to punish him in that way. By the end of the fight, Tate was covered in bruises and cuts. Absolutely every exchange, if you can even call them exchanges, he lost. Somehow, Andrew managed to get beaten in what should have been the easiest matchup of his life. The absurd part is that when the judge's decision was announced, one judge scored the fight as a draw. Thank God the other two judges gave the win to Chase D'Amore, even if with a strange score. On paper, it might look like the fight was close, but it wasn't. However, that perfectly describes Tate's entire fighting career. On paper, it's one thing, but in reality, it's an absolute lie. And if you still don't fully understand what I mean, let me remind you how Andrew Tate gaslit the entire internet into believing he was a kickboxing champion.
In 2005, Tate started practicing martial arts. In November 2008, Tate was ranked 7th best light heavyweight kickboxer in Britain by the International Sport Kickboxing Association, or ISKA. But this is where the problems start. It's hard to find all of Tate's fights. If you count only documented fights, then his record is 25-9. Even if you don't search for all the fights, but only title fights, many are still simply not available on the network. Let me remind you that we live in a time when the first title fight of Joe Louis against James J. Reddick, which took place in 1937, is in the public domain. There is even a version in color. However, anything can happen. Perhaps the records are really lost. So let's look at who he fought in title fights. After all, these are fights for the world title. The first attempt was successful. In 2009, Tate won by knockout in the 5th round and became the English champion of ISKA in cruiserweight. There's no information about the opponent he defeated, except for his name, Paul Randall. In the next fight, Andrew took another IKF British cruiserweight title. This time, more information about the opponent. This is Daniel Hughes, but nothing is known about his merits in kickboxing. The only mention of him is as a boxer. In this sport, he has a record of 12-3. In 2011, an attempt to take a third title was not successful. Tate was already the English ISKA champion, but wanted to take the vacant world title. This was prevented by Jean-Luc Benoit, a man about whom there is not much information, but all of it is polar. One resource says that Jean-Luc Benoit is a fighter with a record of 2-1. Out of 3 fights, 2 were against Andrew. The second resource says that at the moment his record is 31-13, although it's most likely the truth is in the middle. The rematch was organized immediately, where Tate won by knockout in the 8th round, after which a title drought set in for him. Andrew will lose 3 title fights. First, he lost a decision to Vincent Petitjean, a fighter with a blurred past. One resource says that his record to date is 2 wins, 2 losses. Another resource says that he has 60 wins and 5 losses. But the problem is that the same resource says that he's 190 centimeters tall. That is, he's as tall as Tate. You may have already noticed, but let's just say he is slightly lower than Andrew. In other words, you cannot trust this resource 100%. The second consecutive defeat in the title fight occurred in 2012 against a serious opponent, the Armenian Sahak Parparian. This is the first opponent in Tate's career.
When you actually go look at Andrew Tate fighting clips and him just sparring against other people, he looked like he put up an actual fight. Some of y'all is just like, why he didn't fight like he did in these clips? I don't know why. Maybe because he's 25 in these clips right here. Now he's 40. Probably don't move as fast and stuff like that. But then it's not really an excuse because you got people in their 40s who still boxing now for like $4 or $5 million. I think maybe he didn't take it as serious. Maybe he didn't train at all. Or maybe he meant to lose the fight so he can get some money. My personal opinion, bro, I just think you should never took this fight because it don't look good on you. It's just like when you sell an image that you are the alpha male and then you lose to somebody else that looked up to you, it's just like, damn. It's like you getting dethroned right now. You're the king, and then somebody that grew up in your nations come and dethrone you. Like, that's honestly what it's like. And it's sad to see because a lot of people are following him. And I used to be one of the people that used to like his content a lot until he started getting too egotistical for me. He started taking it way too far on certain stuff. And I'm just like, this getting kind of corny. This getting kind of cringy. This seems too much like a cult. And yeah, I'm out of here. If you like this video right here, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Make sure you go check out my Twitch and also watch my recent video, which will be right here. And make sure you hit the subscribe button right here. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.